We call it people technology.
インテル入ってる。
Time then for match number 22 of IPL 2021. This is Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Intel. We've got a cracker on our hands today. The Delhi Capitals, Royal Challengers, Bangalore, both teams that have started this year's tournament particularly well. And while we do have what is going to be our second match at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad, it is a pertinent reminder that these are testing times. So before we start the cricket chat, a message to all our viewers, in particular in India: if you're in public, do mask up, follow social distancing and self-sanitizing protocols. And if you are eligible, please do take your vaccine as soon as possible. Right, we've got a cricket match to talk about. The toss has already gone down at Ahmedabad, and I've got a very studious pairing together. I like it when Deep Dasgupta and Ian Bishop come together. It's high level, intelligent cricket chat. Not that it isn't when the rest of the panel comes together, but there's something about these two that I like. Toss has gone down. I won't even give them a chance to respond to that. They're embarrassed. But the toss has gone down in Ahmedabad, and it's gone Rishabh Pant's way. The Delhi Capitals are having a bowl first, and this should be a good one, Deep. Delhi against Bangalore is two teams that have started well, as against Punjab and Kolkata yesterday, where you could see a bit of nerves on both sides.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and this is a cracker of a game. I mean, DC is also chasing the top two, which is RCB and CSK at this point in time. So yeah, I mean, one is that obviously, and it's going to be very, very interesting, and it's very interesting to see how the toss pans out, because last night we saw the dew. There was so much happening there. There's so many things as a captain that you have to keep in mind. I mean, there's so many moving parts. It's a very tactical game there.
Yeah, as it turns out, Rishabh Pant wants to bowl first. I'm beginning to like a lot of Rishabh Pant at tosses. Bish, you've seen it firsthand almost now with Pant at the tosses, and he refers to whoever's conducting the tosses, sir. He seems very chill. Virat Kohli seemed to be giving him an endorsement. Well done, not a bad toss, for you. And he says he's given me the headline for the rest of our lives. When you're a winning team, you don't talk much.
I like it. He's very he's straight up. There are not too many frills around the edges. I think he learned a little bit more to sweep it up as he goes and he gets more experience. But for now, what you see is what you get. Much like his batting with Rishabh Pant, it's pure, it's unadulterated, and it comes straight at you. So that's a good thing for a young man.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the changes that both teams make. And Ashwin withdrawing from the IPL for reasons that are well known now. Our best wishes go out to Ashwin. We hope things are good in the Ashwin family. Yeah. But there is a change that has to be made, therefore, for the Delhi Capitals. And Deep, the toss-up was between one seamer or Lalit Yadav, who, of course, played for them earlier this season. Ishant Sharma makes his first appearance at a ground that he knows particularly well. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think maybe also the fact that the dew factor, and we've seen the dew factor plays a very important role in games here in Ahmedabad. At least it did in the last game. So that could be one of the reasons. Obviously, Ishan, the experience and everything else, you would want him to come in, and also the fact that Kagiso Rabada hasn't been at his best. Obviously, Avesh has done extremely well, but just maybe thinking on those lines, maybe Marcus Stoinis is a backup, but. So, I mean, I'm just looking at that pace attack and saying, you have to play Kagiso Rabada. He's one of the best in the world, but he hasn't been at his best. So maybe that again has a role to play in that decision making. But I think predominantly it could be the dew factor there.
Yeah, that's a good conversation to start off with, Bish, because Rabada hasn't quite hit the ground running this season, not like he did in the UAE last year. And with Ishant Sharma, they now get a genuine option to start off with the new ball. Rabada, sometimes even last year, we were looking at power play numbers and it didn't tend to be good. So thoughts on that, Bish?
Yeah, I have no problem with Ishant. He didn't play much last season, but he seemed to be coming into his own once again as a good T20 bowler. I think it was a year previous to that. With all his experience now, though, in the longest format, you get something that more often than not, if he's bowling well at practice sessions, then you can depend a lot on it. And as Deep said, it could have come down to the dew because Rishabh wouldn't have known prior whether he was going to win the toss and have to bowl first or second. So, but you can never sort of go back on the experience that Ishant brings.
Well, let's have
Can I
a
also
chat.
add to that? I mean, just occurred to me, could also be because Rabada generally doesn't bowl too many in the first six in the power play.
Yes.
You want him to bowl in the death. So you have someone like Ishant who, on the other side, bowls predominantly in the power play or the first half of the game and isn't as good as someone like Rabada in the death. So maybe, they have very certain roles, as in Ishant to bowl predominantly in the first half,
Yeah.
Rabada predominantly in the second half.
Yeah, I'd love to know, both your thoughts, Bishu in particular, on this Kagiso Rabada, and why it's not quite worked for him. It's still early days in the tournament, but just 4 wickets in the first 4 games that he's played. He missed the first one. He also didn't complete his quota of 4 overs in the last 2 games. You think that's almost unthinkable when you play a bowler of Rabada's quality? Is there something that's missing?
I don't know if I can put my finger on something that's missing because, I mean, it's cricket. A guy spends a week and a bit in quarantine as well. The other day, we're sort of underplaying the sort of impact that quarantine is having on players and commentators, by the way. And look, it's a new season. He's back in India, so we can afford to give him a little bit of leeway, as we say in the Caribbean, give him a little bit of a bly to start the season off. But more importantly, he will hope the quality that he is, that he gets better as he goes deeper into the season.
Like you said, Deep, it's like unthinkable. Rabada's got to play every game, but it's not been
Yeah.
that sort of impact. They've got a lot of options. They're still keeping Anrik Nokia out of this team, and it's funny that Rabada had not bowling his quota of 4 overs. So clearly, an indication there as well of what the management make of how well Rabada is bowling at the moment.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And obviously, I mean, I was speaking to someone who was covering the series back in South Africa, and even there he wasn't at his best. So obviously, as Bish mentioned, and it's not an easy time for anyone. So obviously, in terms of skill wise, he's right there at the top amongst the best in the world. But I mean, there is so much happening right now. You don't know what's affecting him. Could be more of a mental issue, but you want him to kind of get as good as he is or closer to what he can provide. But yeah, I mean, in the meantime, you still have to keep going. And obviously, as you mentioned, you can't keep Rabada away from the playing 11. He's so good. But in the meantime, you also have to think of backups in terms of, if he isn't bowling that great, if you need somebody else to finish off his overs or just a backup. So I think that makes things a little more complicated. But the good part about DC is, their batting has been so good and they have that depth. I know in the middle order, Reese hasn't contributed quite a bit, but they have that batting depth to kind of fall back on, so that they have that luxury to go in with an extra bowler, even if that means kind of depleting a little bit of batting depth there.
All right. What about Ishant Sharma? Yes, Bish, please. You got a point to add to that?
Sorry, I was just going to think forward a little bit about Anrik Nokia and a tough decision that could possibly be made, maybe not too far from now, about getting him back. And maybe that could be a catalyst as well. You can't overlook bowling in pairs with two guys who are familiar with each other. That could possibly be a thing down the road that spurs Rabada on. So you're just looking at options.
Yeah. Dale Steyn made that point that when Rabada and Nokia bowled together, they seemed to get, they were more destructive, the more effective as a pair. So, point well taken. We'll Nokia at some point. How Delhi balance their overseas is a question for them. But what about the selection call that they've made for Ashwin himself? They had Umesh Yadav as well as an option. I think he had a bit of a niggle early on but it was interesting to see that Delhi went for Avesh Khan ahead of Ishant Sharma at the start of the season. And it's a big season for Ishant, you'd think, 32 years of age and, getting an appearance now in a T20 game, big auction coming up next year. Just thoughts, Deep, on Ishant Sharma?
True. I mean, not just Ishant, even Umesh as well. I mean, the first two Indian overseas options for Delhi was actually Avesh Khan and also Meriwala. I mean, the other game they played, the second Indian fast bowler, it was Meriwala before Ishant and Umesh, and both of them were available for selection. So that tells you about, the franchisee mindset. It's not about reputation at times. It's about how somebody is performing in the training sessions, the current form. And apparently, obviously, I mean, it seems that Meriwala was bowling better in the net sessions and training sessions, better than, and also the fact that he's the only left armer in that squad that they have. But yeah, I mean, it's a big season for Ishan and Umesh, because again, next year there'll be a big auction, and they're far from over, to be honest. I mean, Umesh and Ishan, there's still got a few years left in them. Yeah, I mean, big season for both of them.
Yeah, it seems like, Bish, that the Indian seamers aren't quite pulling a lot of weight in the dugouts or the dressing rooms. Navdeep Saini gets one game, out he goes. RCB started with Harshal Patel. Here we're watching the likes of Meriwala, like Deep points out, and even Avesh Khan that got the nod ahead of Ishant Umesh. It's an interesting way to see how franchises are looking at these uncapped Indian bowlers.
They're looking very practically, it would seem. And again, we don't know from the outside who had a niggle at the start of the season, and other guys would have come in. But Avish Khan had a good domestic season. Great to see him being the leading wicket taker for Delhi. I mean, I think he had that one game last year. And I remember when he came in, I was saying to a colleague of mine, I'm glad that he got a game because he's a promising guy that we saw from the 2016 Under-19 World Cup. And then he went for about 40 runs off a couple of overs. And I sort of dipped my head and I thought, So when I saw him come in and start the season again this year, I thought he had to be bowling well leading up to it. He had a good domestic season, as I said, and to see his progression now at different phases of the game as well, because he started bowling the new ball, then he went into the middle overs, and then the back end. So he's showing great growth and versatility.
All right, let's have a look at the RCB 11. Now they make a couple of changes too. Navdeep Saini was given just the one game against CSK at the Wankhede in that afternoon game. Went for a few, and that's just about it. Virat Kohli saying they want a little more batting, and in comes Rajat Patidar, who seems to have got quite a few opportunities. Now started the season, got a game in the middle, and back he comes. And there's also a swap with Dan Christian going out and Daniel Sams coming in. So they have a little more bowling with the left arm pace of Daniel Sams, and he can still whack it around towards the end. What do you make of that, Bish? One game to Navdeep Saini. You covered that game in Mumbai, but thoughts on RCB making that switch?
Well, it seemed to be a horses for courses selection that didn't go well in any way, shape, or form at all. I'm not a big fan of one game here and one game there because it can play in your confidence if your mind isn't that strong. But on the Daniel Sams one, he was at Delhi last year, wasn't he? He didn't pick up a wicket, I think, in the 2 or 3 games he played all season. So that was a disappointment. But he went back home. He had some good cricket in the Big Bash League. He not only bowled reasonably well, but he batted well. He got over 200 runs. So he offers something, I wouldn't say more than Christian, but current form, he's doing well. So I'm keen to see how he goes, and he brings that left-handedness as well.
Yeah, Rajat Patidar is an interesting one, Deep. You'd think when you've got a couple of chances, albeit, one game in, one game out, he's got scores of 1 and 8. You think now the franchise would look at another domestic Indian batsman, perhaps. It could be Azharuddin, could be anyone else. But it looks like Kohli and RCB like what they see of Rajat Patidar. He gets another opportunity whenever they want to play an extra batsman.
Well, also the fact that, he's been prolific in the domestic season, but he has been batting really well. Obviously scored runs, but he's looked also very good. So one is that. So I'm sure that he's been batting very well in the training sessions as well. He's been looking good. So one is that. Secondly, we are looking at a number 3. I know Bish doesn't agree with it, but that's a plan that they have. That you play an Indian batsman at number 3, whether it's Washington Sundar, whether it's Patidar, whether it's Shabazz, and you have Maxwell at 4 and AB de Villiers at 5. So I think that's a decision that they've made, and they're going to stick with it, which is fine. But yeah, but if you look at that team, they bat really deep. Someone like Kyle Jamieson, he comes at number 9. Harshal Patel can bat. He opens for his first class side in white ball cricket. He would come at number 9 actually. So that's like pretty deep, that batting order. But also the good part is they haven't really, they have enough bowling as well. They have 7 good options, bowling options. But I like Daniel Sams. I really like Daniel Sams, and I think because one, he's a left-arm seamer, he's got pace, and this pitch would actually assist somebody. Would be more forgiving for a seam bowler than a cutter bowler. So Daniel Sams, because of his pace, might be a better option at this point in time. And batting-wise, yes, as Bish mentioned, he's been very good in the Big Bash.
Now, I mean, you say they bat deep, and yet the last game, the two of you covered for RCB, we were treated to a 21-ball 8 by Yuzvendra Chahal that went on forever. The two of you were calling, but anyway, yeah. Let's maybe talk a bit about that. Yeah, carry on, Vish.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was
Go ahead.
thinking whether that there is an impact of that game. Sometimes we tend to see the hangover of a previous game stay with teams the next, and perhaps that they prefer this deep batting. They want another specialist batsman. That position that Deep talks of at three. I know that you've made your opinion clear on it. Wish you'd rather have AB bat higher or Maxwell bat higher, but it looks like that's a position they want for a batsman, and not just that, a batsman to go hard. Because if they go off, you still have AB and Maxwell to come. So it looks like a tricky one.
Yeah, 2 points that I'd like to give my own personal view on is that this is an important game because of the destruction that happened against RCB last game. They need to recover quickly now. They're going to have to be setting a total tonight. So with the due, it makes it all the more difficult, but it's a significant game that they don't want too much disruption of their form this season. Deep and I have been discussing this number 3 position privately amongst ourselves. So look, I understand fully what they're trying to do, stretch that excellence in their batting. I get it. It's just a little bit different from, there's a number of ways you can go about doing something, and that's one way, and it doesn't mean one is right or wrong. That number 3, I looked around at all the other franchises around the IPL. Almost all of them, barring KKR, have an Indian international or an overseas. I think it's some batting at that. It's such a critical position, number 3. I want that guy to be a match winner. I don't know enough about Patidar to have a strong opinion on it, but it's just my own personal way that I'd love to see a match winner, a known match winner batting there.
Okay, I would also look at it from the other angle. Okay, everyone's talking about how good Maxwell's been this season. So maybe there is a very defined role for him in terms of batting at a certain stage in the game, batting maybe after, say, 7 overs or something. So maybe that's the reason. Maybe they don't want to mess around with that definition, because even we all remember last year when he was with the Kings and he said, I don't know what my role is, right? So maybe what they've done is they've clearly defined his role as a batsman in the team, and they don't want to mess around with it. And hence, if there is an early wicket, for example, like I can almost guarantee that if the opening partnership is a longish one, then you might see Glenn Maxwell. Then Patidar might not come in at 3. So I think that's got to do with how they've defined roles for Maxwell or AB de Villiers, and then they work around that.
Okay. It seems like a hard place to bat regardless, because you have to go hard. Yes, but you got a point to add on that? You got something on that?
No, Deep and I will probably converse on, okay, that what causes that defined role? Is it that Maxwell isn't versatile enough to have a game to suit an early wicket fall? Or is it that he plays spin or something better? So I get, and I'm not castigating what they've done. I understand, and I'm coming to that understanding with an open mind of what they're trying to do. But I'd also like to know why that role is defined to that position.
Okay, so since it worked, let me toss up one thing. What if it's the nothing to lose position, the Sunil Narayan equivalent position, that we send him up top, he goes for it. If he comes off great. If he doesn't, we still have AB, we still have Maxwell. Does that make any sense at all, or would you rather say no? Why not send Maxwell? What if Rajat Patidar gets stuck and derails the momentum? What's the balance here, Vish?
I don't know what the balance is, but historically, and again, I'm saying to viewers who are watching this program, my mind is open to a change. Remember when we always used to say the best players must face the most deliveries? Well, that may be evolving in 1 or 2 franchises, but I'm looking at DC, Rishabh Pant coming in there. It would have been Shreyas Iyer had Shreyas been around. Mumbai Indians, Surya Kumar Yadav, and you can go down the list. Rahul Tripathi is probably the least established of the guys who are coming in at that number. So I still like a really, really good, well-known guy, if I have him in my team, who can come in at 3, either win me the game or bat some time and then tee off towards the end. So I would like to think that Maxwell thinks that he's a better player than only being provided with a certain chunk of overs.
Okay. And the Daniel Sam's inclusion, Deep, is that also perhaps just a slight acknowledgement? Dan Christian can do both jobs too, but Harshal Patel went for a few. They literally bowled 19 good overs in the last game, and everything seemed to change after that. So is that just giving Virat Kohli a little more bandwidth in terms of bowling, which perhaps is something they can take away from the last game?
I think so, and also, I mean, as we've been talking about in this particular venue, the dew plays a massive role. And then, if you're a cutter, I mean, a seam bowler who depends a lot on bowling cutters and slow deliveries, with a wettish white ball, that becomes more difficult. You rather come and bowl straight, right? And with the cutters and all, it's difficult to control. So maybe when you look at Daniel Sams, I think he gets the nod before someone like a Dan Christian is because of his pace and his skill set, which suits a little more on this surface, and especially on the conditions that we are talking about. I think that's one of the reason. And batting wise, I guess you get almost the same. Obviously, Dan Christian, with all that experience that he's got, is definitely you'd prefer. But I don't see much of a difference as far as current form with the bat is concerned. And with the ball, I think the pace kind of tilted the scale in his favor.
Okay, well, I mean, let's be fair. They were at the receiving end of one of the most remarkable individual performances you'll see in a T20 game in Ravindra Jadeja. Now, India's closest replacement to Ravindra Jadeja is playing in this game, Deep, right after that. So Akshar Patel had a good opening game at Sunrisers, at Chennai against the Sunrisers, bowled in the super over. Seemed like, he's back to full fitness. Is he going to have a big role to play, or Ahmedabad different conditions to Mumbai in the afternoon?
It's not going to be easy, but again, someone like him with all that experience, and also he's not somebody who actually gives a lot of tweak to the ball, right? He knows how to bowl with a white ball. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, definitely, with the conditions there. But if you want to back a spinner, you would back someone like him to do the job. And the pitch itself has been on the slower side, so if he can manage to kind of grip it, I think it could be quite a handful. And also, I mean, listen, this is a very healthy competition now between Jadeja and Akshar. Let's not forget what Akshar did in the test match scenario as well when he got the opportunity. So this is a very healthy competition which is building up. They're very similar, as you mentioned. Ball, bat, fielder as well. Akshar is a really good fielder too. So it's like, I mean, I'm really looking forward to what future holds as far as this particular competition is concerned.
Have they revealed to the rest of the tournament that orthodox left arm spin is the way to go to get AB and Maxwell, Bish?
well, leg spin can do the trick as well as it has done in the past, certainly against David Villiers. And look, it's a good bowler is a good bowler. Whether it's an off spinner in Ravichandran Ashwin against some of the top class batters, whether it's left arm spin or leg spin, that's a great thing about the IPL and about world cricket, where you get the best players up against the best. So whatever works. But that Jadeja match the other day, I'm still trying to get over his excellence and what he's been doing all season. His fielding, his catching, his everything. That is really top notch.
Okay, I'd really like to see if RCB have the hangover of that chase against CSK in this game. This game has come thick and fast. It's come against a strong team like the Capitals. So it should be a fascinating game. We'll take a few minutes away from the game and pose 3 good questions to Deep Dasgupta and Ian Bishop. Let's see if they've got the answers. And I just fan first.
Completely forgot about that.
It's almost a friendly contact between the two of you. Not even. Let's take question, right? Nice and easy. Our first question: when did RCB first make the final of the IPL? Okay, think back. No, that's incorrect. Deep, Bish, do you want to have a crack at that?
What did Deep say? So I can eliminate it. It broke up. Did he say 2012?
Yeah, 2012 is what he said. So you have another 12 options.
When was South Africa?
Yeah, well done. I'm going to give it to you. 2009. I'm going to give it to you. Anil Kumble's RCB team in 2009 that fell short to Adam Gilchrist's Deccan Chargers. So good one from Ian Bishop. He takes a lead. Let's take our second question. And our next question, which overseas member of the Bangalore coaching staff represented Punjab Kings in the IPL previously?
Simon Katic.
He's taken a 2-0 lead. Excellent answer from Ian Bishop. Simon Katic it is, part of the RCB match setup at the moment. Brilliant. And our final question coming your way. Which player, it's an absolute half volley. Which player currently playing for Delhi won the purple cap last year?
Check it out, man.
No, it's a purple cap.
Purple cap.
Oh, sorry.
Rabada.
It is Ravindra.
How embarrassing is that?
It's a good thing you're not on the main. It's a good thing you're not on the mainstream broadcast of the tournament, Bishop. All right. Thanks very much, Ian Bishop, Deep Dasgupta. We will get back to this chat at halftime on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket Info T20 Timeout, powered by Intel. Having a great time here. We hope you're enjoying our coverage of the IPL, but we must keep in mind, of course, that these are testing times. So once again, to all our viewers, especially in India, mask up in public, follow social distancing and self-sanitizing protocols. And if you are eligible, please do take your vaccine as soon as possible. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll pick up this conversation after the RCB innings. So do join us then.
We call it people technology.
インテル入ってる